Welcome back to the Scholarly Flow. We're here today. It's cold as hell outside.
Yeah.
But we're here to talk about lost albums and leaks and basically how the two intersect with each other. This episode was prompted by the announcement of Balloonerism, which is an upcoming Mac Miller album that will be here on January 17th, 2025, if you weren't aware. And we both love Mac Miller and know a lot about leaks and lost albums, so it made sense to devote an episode to that, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and I think this one's interesting because there's so much lore behind this this specific project, and I think it gives good context to like where he was in his journey and a lot of the stuff that was going on in his life. So let's dissect it.
Yeah, so when I first heard about it, heard that it was coming, at first I actually assumed that it was gonna be like Circles, in the sense of something that songs that he'd been working on towards the end of his life.
Yeah.
But in this case, it's actually songs from 2013, actually when Faces came out, which was, some people consider that to be his best album, and that was a lost album essentially.
Yeah, that one is considered a mixtape, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm excited because he has so much work to his name, like 6 albums and 4 mixtapes, which I think it speaks to just who he is as an artist, because you can't really like pin him down and say this is his style, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can do that for, if you said that in a certain period of time, you could definitely say this is his style. But from the outside looking in, or I guess retroactively, then I agree with you. It's a bit harder to do that.
When did you first start listening to Mac Miller?
Blue Slide Park in 2011.
Okay.
Freshman year of high school.
Yeah, I think that was when I first started listening to him as well, and I had him on my iPod Touch.
Yeah.
He had a song called Donald Trump on that mixtape, right?
Of course. Nah, that was off of Blue Slide Park was an album. I think Donald Trump was off of the Mac Mafia, or whatever you want to call the fan base. Don't come for me for not knowing this, but I'm pretty sure it's off of Kids.
Okay. Yeah, that one.
But I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think it was off of that project. And I think my context for like Mac Miller is a little bit different because I was listening to him pretty decently in high school, and then in college I kind of stopped, and then kind of when everything happened, I was picking up and like listening to him a little bit more. And I think there was one song that you showed me when we were in London, and it's Can't Stop the Feeling.
Oh, with Kendrick.
Yeah. Crazy that he has a feature with Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah, Fight the Feeling is what it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, for y'all who know, if you're ever, because I learned this the hard way, if you ever listen to that song, if you're ever on aux somewhere, this is where it's most important to know this. If you're on aux at a party and you play that song, once you get to like the last minute of the song, and you'll know because it fades out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
It becomes,
bro, you better turn it off. If you know, you know.
Yeah, it becomes controversial. But yeah, like that period of time was when I first got back into him after high school, because he had this huge transformation. And I think that's why some people would say he has quote unquote a perfect discography, because this is also going to be his 7th album.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, when you think of lost albums, or in this case, yeah, you would call this a lost album, what usually comes to mind, whether it's him or just in general?
When I think of a lost album, I think of a body of work that fans are just really anticipating, something that they want to come out and be shared with the world, but like for whatever reason the artist isn't ready, or it's not time to put it out, or maybe like they died before they could put it out. And I think that leads to like pieces of it leaking. I also think about a little bit of what Drake did with Care Package, where there are all these songs that were just like, he worked on them with people, but they were never put on an album, and they just exist and they've been released, but they've never been formally put out on like a streaming platform.
Yeah, that was the one that had like Circadian Rhythm, right?
I think that was that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, actually.
No. That had like trust issues and okay. Yeah.
That it was Care Package with like the black Cadillac on the cover.
Yeah. And that release was interesting because I remember I was still living in Houston at the time when it came out, and I remember people were like, "Oh, new Drake album." and then I'm like, yo, I've heard all these songs. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but having like all of those tracks, and there are so many. For example, "Days in the East" for a long time was just like this underground song that he worked on with Party Next Door that was never on an album, and like just a beautiful song. And then there's like I think Club Paradise is on that one too.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, Girls Love Beyonce. There are some real like SoundCloud like 2010 hits
Some
on
deep
that.
cuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really an insight into who they were at that time.
Yeah.
And both literally what they were going through at that time,
Yeah.
but also before. I mean, Drake was big in 2010,
Yeah.
but obviously not anywhere close to the level he is now. So it's like you can hear more of the rent needs to be paid, you know?
Yes, I think that's super fair. I think it's like there's a certain rawness of those albums, and I think for a lot of reasons this Mac Miller album is substantial because that sounds so academic.
We are the scholars.
Yeah. No, this is an important project because like it's a relic from an era. It's one of the last pure 2010 mixtapes where you have a rapper on beats who's talking about their introspective life. That doesn't happen much anymore. Like I think that like R&B and hip hop and like there's not much like conscious like of that era that exists still. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean there is, but it's not mainstream necessarily.
Yeah, it's gone back underground, but like because I think a lot about like Mac Miller and just like him just like flowing on beats, and it wasn't supposed to be anything insane with production. There wasn't like SZA wasn't featured on any of it. It's literally just him like kind of spitting for like 64 bars.
Yeah, I did see that she's on. Is it 2 of the songs or just 1?
She's on 2, at least 2.
Yo,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. And so I mean, I think that there are a lot of questions that have been like. I think there's a lot that is unanswered about his life at that period of time. And I was watching, I didn't listen to any of the songs, but I was watching YouTube videos about what some of them include. And they're pretty real topics, you know? Like he has this alter ego that starts rapping.
Yeah, because that's what he did. Larry Fisherman
Yeah.
was, I think for Faces, that's what he did back then with Larry Fisherman, and I think there was another one. But it was something that people did back then where they would put out a whole project. Kind of, I mean, we know who the GOAT was when it came to alter ego, Marshall Mathers.
Yeah, yeah.
But, it's almost like seeing, like, this coming out in 2025 is almost bringing us back to that era where people were doing that.
Yeah, and I think they're probably going to be... Like, people have already listened to a lot of the project, but I think for people who aren't as familiar with him and his work, it might be a little bit shocking because it's going to be, like, so autobiographical from such a raw period of his life. Like, when he's, like, battling with addiction and, like, doing all other sorts of things. And so I think for those reasons, it's just going to be a really interesting project to just, like, pick apart for the first time.
For sure. Yeah, we're just over a month away, so can't come sooner.
Yeah, so any other thoughts on this topic or lost albums?
I'm just this particular one is making me think back to the ones that have like in general generated the most excitement from the fans.
Which ones were they?
I remember this was in like 2017, 2018, around that time. Maybe a little no, actually like 2019 because I think we were out of college. But remember Yandi?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did that's like that never came out though fully.
No. So that's actually segue into the next thing that we're kind of talking about. That was more of a leak.
Okay, yeah, that definitely was a leak. But the thing is, like, I'm really appreciative of some leaks. For example, Kanye West's song 80 Degrees. And I'm gonna actually put that, I'm gonna sample that right here. The fact that we got to hear the version before The Weeknd actually got on it and just like the original chorus, like that, you can just hear so much more realness in it for some reason.
Yeah, it kind of, I think it goes back to what I said earlier. These usually were made a long time ago, so it was maybe when things weren't as clear and maybe they were a bit hungrier than they are now.
Yeah,
Like, you know.
and even like going on that whole thing, like there's something about like a leaked project or like, you know, an unreleased project that just feels so much more pure from the artist. Because even now, I was hearing talk about like a project that is fully produced by Kanye West, meaning he made all of the beats. People are saying that like his next project is going to be that, because I think people miss that hunger. You know, like they miss, like there's this line J. Cole has where he's talking about like, I think it's I don't know the name of the song, but he's rapping how like if you solo his vocals in his early stuff, you can hear his stomach grumbling. He's so hungry. And I'm like,
hey man, that's raw.
That's really powerful imagery. Like, and I would love to test that and see if that's true.
Yeah. I remember almost 2 years ago at this point, if not more than 2 years ago, we had our guy Free Play on as a guest.
Yeah.
And we were talking about, and so he's a sound engineer. Go check him out at Free Play. And he was talking about how, as someone who works in the studio with artists, he sees from a first-hand basis how easy it is for leaks to happen and why they happen. And yeah, it really puts into perspective, like, when you see someone who you love and then you see that one of their albums got leaked, it really makes you think, were they just being careless, or was it something that wasn't actually a leak, but they're just calling it a leak for the attention?
Okay, so there are two paths to take with that comment. I'm gonna take I want to talk about like the projects that weren't leaks, that people said they were leaks. I think that happens a lot. Yeah. But that conversation was actually really interesting because he was telling us about how, as a session producer, he's seen people go into like a laptop that was left over and just like take the whole,
which is so crazy.
Yeah, not even just that, but like take like the whole like kicks and drums and all of those samples, because it's like, yeah, if you're in the studio and Boy Wonder leaves his laptop, I'm not saying I would do it, but I'm saying I know a lot of producers. I love to have Boy Wonder's sound kit.
Exactly. I mean, it's right there.
Yeah, and like it's super easy to get to.
Yeah, it's like what do they say? Like a lion and a zebra.
But what's the analogy there?
Like a lion. If you put a lion next to a zebra, a lion's gonna do what a lion's gonna do.
Yeah, no, true. Yeah, that's the fact of the matter. Because it's like, especially think about it. Frank Ocean, he like apparently what he would do with his last album, Blonde, he didn't have it saved anywhere else. He had it on one hard drive. Do you know how risky that is?
What do you think for him? Like, do you think it was just not like what was going through his mind?
Frank Ocean?
Yeah.
I think at that period of time, because that was also when Endless was gonna come out, and so Endless was supposed to be like the project that he gave to Def Jam, and was like, this is my final album. And then after released that, but if that project got leaked, like his magnum opus, that would have changed the course of music history, in my opinion. Like if he released that project,
that sounds dramatic, but I agree.
I think it would have, because it's just like, it's hard to tell why that project was so impactful, but if it had been released any other way and it was actually released under a record label, I think it'd be a totally different project. Yeah. So he would walk around with one copy of a hard drive that had it, and that's legend.
Yeah, it's a risky game, but you know, folks, don't do that. Be careful if you make music.
Yeah, and then the other part of that comment is there was like an album release that Justin Bieber was doing. I can't remember who was on the song, but he was like, my hard drive got stolen. And then there was a fake Twitter account that was tweeting like, oh, I have...
Oh, I remember. It was a long time ago.
Who was that with?
I can't remember. I'm going to have to do some research into that, but I do remember when it happened.
Yeah, and then the third source I'm going to cite, because I just have all these examples in my brain, is when Kanye West on Real Friends was like, I had a cousin that stole my laptop that I was blank. I had to pay him $250,000 to get it from him. So like people steal laptops from artists as well, and that's how things get leaked. Yeah. Was that a separate conversation to the whole thing about the tape? The tape. I think they were.
I
think they were the same situation.
Okay.
Oh yes. Yes. No, those are the same thing.
Okay.
Those are the same thing.
Yeah, I was like, I think I heard this man talk about a laptop and paying a large sum of money. And
yeah. And that thing is, you can Google it, and that's the crazy part. That is how projects get leaked. You know. So I mean, I think the good thing, I would say that Mac Miller's estate has done a really tactful job of like handling his stuff and like putting out his projects and like not doing the same thing they did with like Juice World or like Pop Smoke, where you listen to the project but it doesn't feel like it's them, you know?
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, especially because Circles, it was, I mean, obviously we'll never truly know, but the consensus is that it was pretty much in the state that he would have wanted it to have been released as.
But yeah, I'm excited to listen to it, and we're definitely gonna have to do an episode for when we finally do it.
This will be the before, and then stay tuned for the after.
Yeah, so all right, we'll start off.
Let's get it.